Hello and welcome. My name is Scott Suskovic. I'm pastor at Christ Lutheran Church, and welcome to this podcast that we call Deeper Dive, in which we take a look at the previous Sunday's sermon and go at a deeper level for a great conversation. We're glad you're here. Hey there, Pastor Scott here with our next podcast on Deeper Dive, joined by
Pastor Adrian.
Good to have you here. Hey, and I don't know if I've ever gone 2 months, November, December, January, 2.5 months without preaching in my once I was ordained. So, I was wondering if I was going to forget how to do it, but it seemed to come back after a while.
Yeah, the stretches helped when you warmed up and everyone clapped. I was happy you were back.
But it was actually fun to be back, and also fun to tackle this parable of Jesus. It's actually one of my favorite because it really talks about how the gospel is always countercultural. Now, if you remember the parable, a man has a vineyard. He goes out into the marketplace during the harvest season to get day laborers. Some work for 12 hours, some for 9, 6, 3. And then there's these guys who show up and don't even break a sweat, and they work for an hour. And the landowner pays everybody the same amount, 1 denarius. When the people who worked 12 hours came to be paid, they thought they were going to get a little something extra.
A bonus.
A little bonus. But when they also received the same pay as the Johnny-come-latelys, they cried out, "That's not fair." And, of course, the landowner said, "Hey, it's my money. Mm-hmm. Can't I do whatever I want with my money? Take your pay and go home." But it made me think here for a moment. Where do we get a sense of fairness? Now, it could be, on a very surface, could be a very easy answer. You work an hour, I work 12 hours, we're paid the same amount. That's not fair. But who decides what is fair and what is not fair?
Wow, what an excellent question. I mean, it cuts to the heart of this parable. Right. Fairness. I think it seems to be an innate thing. Many of us seem to have a sense even early on.
There's something innate about that. And I think of all cultures, of all time, there's got to be some sort of sense of what is fair and what is not fair. If I work, it's fair to pay me the full wage. Now, there's other cultures, there's other issues that are very cultural. Some cultures, there's polygamy going on, and we wouldn't necessarily say that is evil, sinful. It's not our culture, but it is in some other cultures. Or there are some cultures in which you can wear plaid and striped right next to each other. Can you imagine?
Pastor Scott, don't say such a thing.
It is weird, but we wouldn't say it is of all times, of all places, of all culture, all religion. You can't do that. We wouldn't say that. But there are some things, and this comes right from C.S. Lewis and Mere Christianity. There are some things that all people of all time, of all culture, of all religions would say, that's wrong. For instance, murder, stealing, lying, adultery. You can walk through the 10 Commandments.
Right?
Yeah. Those things would be innate. And of course, that's a different conversation, but Lewis uses that innate sense of morality as a proof for the existence of God. Since we all have that innate, and God is the highest example of morality, He's instilled it in us because we're created in His image. Now, that's not fair. It seems innate, but here's where I'm struggling. I didn't get into it with the sermon. God doesn't seem to care if it's fair or not. That is, like the landowner, God chooses to have mercy on those who he has mercy. And God chooses to show grace on those who he gives grace, like the thief on the cross. He slips in at the last minute, and those of us who have pastored his church our whole lives, we might be tempted to say,
Yeah.
that's not fair.
Not fair. You know, one thing that caught my attention this time that I hadn't really caught was when the workers were asked, why aren't you working? They said, nobody asked us. And I don't know where that thread goes.
Yeah.
But, there's something really invitational about that it's not, in one way, just going at this fairness line. They weren't asking not to work. They were waiting.
Yeah.
They were waiting and hoping to be asked to work.
Right.
I mean, but even if you're not, I guess, we kind of go up a higher level that it's God's justice. I mean, the work maybe is so important, or what's the value? How did the landowner see the ones who came to work and the task at hand? What were the circumstances? That's something that the workers weren't even aware of, the ones that had worked all day.
Right.
So
Right.
I think there are a lot of questions.
That's the great thing about the parables of Jesus. They create so much conversation. They are really timeless because it still hits us where we at. Now, the takeaway from this is that the landowner can do whatever he wants. He can be unfair. Ergo, God can do whatever he wants with his grace. If he wants to give the thief on the cross grace, that's his prerogative.
As long as it doesn't affect me in a way that offends my sensibilities, right? And so, it leaves us kind of, maybe we find ourselves as the workers who've been working all day,
Right.
or maybe the ones who, maybe it's those moments where we're like, wow, by the grace of God, this happened. And that gratitude, your heart's in a different place at that.
There's gratitude, whether you're the worker at one hour or you're the prodigal son coming home and gets the fatted calf. There is a gratitude for that kind of grace. But I think here's what was interesting about that parable is that the landowner was unfair, but he was not unjust. Now, there's a difference there. He was not unjust. That is, he didn't cheat anybody out of anything.
Right. He paid them what he owed them.
Right. And if he decides to do more, that's unfair in our sense of thinking, but it's not unjust.
Right.
And here it is with the very character of God. God cannot be unrighteous. God cannot be unjust. So by giving the thief on the cross, it's a perfect example, by giving the thief on the cross that grace to be in paradise with Jesus, it's not unjust. It is above and beyond. It is generous. Now, when you're talking about the character of God, things that we ought to emulate. Are we to emulate being unfair? Well, that's a little simplistic, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to walk around and say, I just be unfair and unfair.
It's mine,
Yeah.
isn't it? I can do what
Yeah,
I
I can do
want.
whatever I want. Pastor Adrian is so unfair in everything she does. No, but so I wouldn't name it unfairness, but I would name it generous. And that's really the character of the landowner, the character of God. And I think then in relationship is that we are called to be generous people.
Yeah, the landowner was generous. Jesus is telling us about God's generous nature.
Right.
I wonder where that point is. I mean, when we think about our own hearts then and being generous, that it's not about fairness, but generosity with grace, if there's a cost to that. You had mentioned, Pastor Scott, that sometimes Lutherans get accused of cheap grace. Is that
Yes.
something that this edges up to?
Absolutely. We have been falsely accused of cheap grace by some other denominations that say, oh, those Lutherans, they'll just let you get away with anything because everything is forgiveness and grace and mercy. But you got to do something, don't you? You got to do something, don't you? I want that on my tombstone. He preached too much grace.
Oh, wow.
That's what I want. He preached too much grace.
Too much grace.
But the difference is they may interpret it as cheap grace. And that's a phrase coined by Dietrich Bonhoeffer in
Cost of Discipleship.
Cost of Discipleship. And maybe the way, I'll bounce that back to you, maybe the way that I understand that is that Bonhoeffer said that grace may be free, but it ain't cheap.
It came at great cost.
It came at great cost.
Yeah.
So when you think about the cross and you think about what God gave up for the sake of grace, who can ever say it is cheap?
Right. No one.
And to be able to extend that to other people. So the absurdity in this parable, the people worked all day and saying, that's not fair. The absurdity would be, that's too generous.
Then you hear yourself saying, you're like, oh, that
Wait,
doesn't sound right.
that
I
doesn't-
shouldn't say that.
Did that come out of my mouth?
Yes, that's really what I think.
So, but that's really what the issue is. He's being too generous.
Yeah. I don't know if I tried to do my homework on those outline notes.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated, your point about, what God owes us is wrath. God could be very generous in terms of wrath, but God is very generous in terms of mercy. And bringing it home to this Reformation message of faith alone, that it's about faith. It's not faith plus.
It can't be faith. It's got to be that grace alone, because anything that we bring beyond what God has done is feeble and fraught with sin and half-hearted. It's hardly, I remember hearing somebody who was arguing with me about, you got to do something, don't you? You got to do something. And they likened it to, what about a person that gives me $1 million check? Well, at least I have to cash it, don't I? At least I have to cash it. And I said, really? That's your takeaway? Someone has given you $1 million check out of the blue, and you're taking credit because you walked it to the bank?
Yeah.
That's as silly as saying, somehow I helped out poor God in enacting my salvation.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a silly kind of thing to say that I helped out poor God. I remember one time where there was during the heyday of Michael Jordan's career with the Bulls, and they were winning so much and by so many points that the coach threw in a rookie. And the fourth quarter, last minute, the rookie gets fouled, and he shoots a free throw and makes a free throw. And then he got interviewed afterwards, and he was so excited, his first NBA game, and he said, do you realize that not only did we win, but between Michael Jordan and me, we scored 51 points. Bravo.
Bravo.
Bravo. At least I had to
Oh, you
cash
did.
the check. At least I had to say yes. At least, right. Let's just leave it where it ought to be left. Generosity is the character of the landowner, the character of God, and the character that we are to live each day. Not being fair, but being generous.
Being generous.
All right. Well, we're wrapping up this whole sermon series this Sunday as we're looking at another, well, not a parable, but the story of the Transfiguration. Hope you can join us this coming Sunday.
See you then.